a partner in the same project with this university. This is different. And this is the idea of the semantic web. Probably lots of people are familiar with this idea. And here I don't want to repeat something that I keep saying also when I came here the previous time. There are two ways of doing things. This thing mainly available on the market. One is a very famous way called the linked data approach. I don't know how many people, is anybody familiar with the idea of linked data? Okay. Well, anyway, it's a set of principles proposed by Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the web, to connect data about the same entity, okay, by creating links. And the other approach is what we were trying to follow in the project here, which is to say, okay, you are free to say whatever you want about an entity, but if we had a system that can provide shared names, identifiers for entities, then linking, integrating, doing mashup of information from independent sources would be much easier. Okay, good. So, what are entities? Well, we already said that, so we don't need to expand so much about it. In a sense, entities are the things we care about, are other people, is our car, is our home, is my birthday party, an event. Okay. Entities are the things that we name in language and are the things that we also use in everyday life. Okay? So we use the computer, the telephone, we meet people, we sit on a chair. No, these are all entities. Okay? But the interesting thing is entities are mainly the things about which we have knowledge. Okay? We know facts about things. We know that there is a connection between, for example, Professor Gerard and myself because of the project. There is a connection between maybe Rome and Ramallah because, no, not directly. I wouldn't say there is a flight, but there isn't. But anyways, okay, there are connections between things, and this is part of our knowledge. And then, as we have seen before, to provide meaning to this knowledge, we can, on top, of course, define vocabularies, schemas, maybe theories, ontologies, okay? But all these things are meant to explain, to give a meaning, and ideally a shared meaning, okay, to the facts we know about things. However, as I was saying before, there is a problem with entities. And yeah, I'm trying to keep very minimalistic slides today, I don't know. This I was inspired like this today. I say I'm lost in data and in time space. What do I mean? Number one, we know very well that if we have, well, let's start from a simple example. Even in a company, okay? Normally in a big company we have several information systems. Okay? Just being able to answer the question, what do we know in the company about this person, this customer, this product, can be a difficult question because information is spread across different systems and mapping information, unless it was designed from the beginning or unless you spend a lot of money and call the guys from SAP and say, look, send me a huge ERP, integrated information system, so everything in a single system. But otherwise, even at university, I have a web page of applications, another with projects, another with my courses and everything. They're not connected. There's not an easy way to say, okay, show me an integrated profile of Professor Paolo Bouquet in the university from these different sources. Because each system is based on different technologies, use a different identifier, a code, whatever, for the person, a different format of representation, different vocabulary. It's not easy. Okay? So, lots of data. The web is multiplying this by millions of times. Okay? It's not just 2 or 3, 4, 5 systems. It can be hundreds, thousands of systems that provide information, or systems, data sets, providing information about the same entity, but lost. So actually it's not the same entity. It's a kind of islands of information about the entity, which are not very well connected. Okay? And when I say in time space, that's another perspective, which is many things also have, are physical things, objects, like a table, a chair, a person, a building. Okay? And in this case, these things, well, I have an example here. I take this thing. This is a very simple object. This is a brochure from the mountain where I live, okay, in Trento. It's for the winter, if you want to see nice pictures. Okay, this was created a couple of months ago for the winter season, okay? And they provided some information, and this thing was sent all over the world to tourist agencies, you know. Now, imagine they think, oh, but we maybe should provide also this information, other information. Oh, there is a special offer that we didn't know about 2 months ago. But this thing is gone, okay? There's no way they can change what they've written here. So this entity, the brochure, which cost a lot of money, is, in a sense, lost in time in this case, because at the time when it was produced, we didn't have information about it, and now we cannot provide the new information about it, okay, because it's gone, okay? And same thing in space. So what I mean is, things could be much more useful for our daily life, but we need a way to make them more useful. So this is, you know, a single slogan to describe what is my current research interest, and that's why I made all this long introduction, which is I'm really fascinated by systems, technologies, methods, ideas that can help us to empower things, but in easy ways. When I say empower things, I'm not thinking about transforming everything in an electronic device with IP numbers, network connections and everything. That's nice, that's part of the story. But I'm saying, is it possible to make a better use of ordinary things to make sure, and this is the second idea, that things can become gateways to access information. So that a simple object like the brochure I was showing to you is not just a brochure. It can become a gateway to access information, typically on the internet, but that is not necessarily the case, about the content of the brochure. Or, I get it somewhere here, yes. This is a bus ticket from my city, okay? A bus ticket, you buy it, but maybe the transportation company would like to give you more information about it later, okay? How can I make sure that when you buy the ticket, after 2 months, you can have updates on the transportation system to the ticket? And you see here as a QR code, a bidimensional QR code, that we are putting on the tickets now with our company to make sure that the transportation company, at any time, can update what you see on when you scan the QR code on the ticket. So, empowering things, open gateways. How do we do it? We have two main paths that we're following in our research. The first path is a path coming from the Open project. There is a huge power in a thing when you can name it in a way which is global, persistent, and unique. This is true for everybody. Actually, I hope the citation is not inappropriate here. Sorry, if I do a cultural mistake, just tell me. But you know that in the Bible at the beginning, the first power that God gave to man was to name things. So now, Adam, go there and give names to things. Okay, this is just, you know, citation, very old, but it's just to say that when you have a name, huh?
We have Muslims have this.
Yeah, okay, I can. Exactly. So what I'm saying is that take it just as a cultural example, but is to say when you have a name for something, you have already a huge power because you can refer to the object when it's not present, it's not there. Okay? You can connect the object with things which are very far away. You can tell other people about the object without showing the object. So naming is very important. And as we saw in the previous presentation, if you're not able to recognize that different names go to the same thing, you lose a lot of information, you lose a lot of power. So, if you don't think this is power, I will show how this can become much less philosophical by showing a project that we are working on at the moment. This is a project with the tax agency in my region. Okay? They have something like 500 databases for different things, like property registry, people registry, the tax registry, the cadastre, the car registry, whatever. There's plenty of stuff. And all this information is very useful for tax inspector to create profiles for taxpayers, to identify people that very likely are not paying the right taxes. Okay? So, using these technologies that we have developed in the project, we have created a very simple way of taking one database, matching all the entities which are named in the database against this global service for naming, okay, through entity matching techniques, annotating each of them independently with a global identifier for the entity if we recognize the entity. Of course, if the same entity is named in different databases, the idea is that it will get the same identifier even though the two databases are not connected at all directly. And this is then mapped onto a global ontology schema, and we create a virtual graph that tax inspectors can now browse, navigate, and query to discover interesting facts about taxpayers, or even better, non-taxpayers, which is what is more interesting for them. Okay, so this is an example of the power of names. Okay, when you find the right name for a non-ambiguous name for the same entity, not only persons, because it could be a property, it could be a piece of land. You know, there are many entities in the database there. Then suddenly you can put together a lot of information, which for tax inspectors is very useful to find, to discover frauds. The second path is making sure that things are not lost in space and time. And so we are working also on using tagging technologies, very simple, from the QR code that you've seen here to RFID, NFC, other kind of physical tagging on things to make sure, but in a smart way. Because I don't know if you're familiar with the QR code. I've never seen the QR code here in Palestine around, so, but maybe there are magazines, I don't know. Are you familiar with QR codes? The squares? No? Are you seeing one here at least, no? Okay. This thing, the black thing here, maybe you don't see it. Okay. You can scan it with your telephone. Okay. If you have a camera on the telephone, you can scan it. It's a way of encoding a string of text. Normally, it contains a link to a website. That's what normally people do. You can put normal text, or you can put a link, and then through the telephone you can, if you are connected to the internet, you can access information. Okay. But we are trying to do something a bit smarter. Sorry, there was a picture, so it's a bit bigger. Now you can see it. Okay. And here's an example of what you would see today if you would scan the ticket I have in my pocket here. This is not a web page. This is going to a platform that we have developed called Object Links, okay, that allows anyone to create a QR code that is dynamically associated to any number of links which can change through time. So, for example, you see there is a little red thing which is the hat of Santa Claus, okay, the red thing down there. It's not very visible from there maybe. Because these days in my city we have the big business is the Christmas market. Now, tourists coming from all over Italy and Europe to visit the Christmas market. So, in this moment on the ticket, if a tourist arrives in the city, scans the code, the position of the geographical position is detected from the telephone, the GPS of the telephone, okay? Without any application, by the way, just using HTML5, which is very nice. And instructions are given on how to reach the Christmas market through public transportation. Okay, this link will disappear on the 1st of January because the Christmas market will be closed, but can be replaced at any time on the same ticket with an exhibition in a museum, a trade fair, another big event, whatever, so it's flexible. Now this is a gateway to information. It's not just a link to a website. It's a way to say, through this ticket, I can point to our customers, the users of the public transportation system, any information we think is useful for them. We have a similar solution on bus stops, where of course the most interesting thing is not the Christmas market, it's the bus schedule. Okay? So in that case, we have a dynamic solution where you scan it on the bus stop and you have the schedule of all the buses passing through stopping there, okay? Plus additional information on disruptions, news, or whatever, which can be done in real time, or the real schedule, so from the GPS on the bus. You know, the bus is supposed to arrive in 5 minutes, but it will arrive in 10, you know, because for some reasons it's late. Plus, part of the story here is that these links to objects, to these gateways, can be shared through social platforms like Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, which means that now this viewpoint on the bus ticket can be shared with your friends so that your friends know, for example, that's interesting, I didn't know there was this application for the Christmas market. I can use it. Or maybe I can use the bus instead of using the car, which is good in general. So these are just two examples of this idea that you can empower things by providing global unique names that are reused in different data sources to find the information and make sure that the thing is not lost, that you can recognize it and pull the information together. Or the smart tagging. Putting something on the object that gives you access to any kind of information you want to provide. The connection between the two things is that both this ticket and the bus stop, for example, have inside information about the unique identifier of the object. Which means that, for example, if we want to publish data about a bus stop on the web, it will be automatically connected to the bus stop because of the unique identifier which is shared across the platforms. Good. Now, this was the premise. This is what I'm doing at the moment. Working on these solutions is not super highly theoretical research anymore. So again, I'm really shifting from philosophy to, I don't know, not even engineering, below that, really, sales and marketing, okay? But I think there is an interesting application of this in the context of the Sierra project collaboration, and this is the last things, the last part I wanted to present. There is another sense in which things are lost, which is they're lost in languages, okay? Because, as we said at the beginning, okay, again, this is very small, sorry, I didn't know how to make it bigger. I was very late in the preparation of slides. This is just a partial list of the names that you can find on geonames for New York City. Okay? Some of them are not even readable because there is a problem with the encoding of characters on browsers. Okay? One of them probably is in Arabic, but since my browser does not support Arabic, you don't see it. Okay? But you see, this is a long list for the same city. Okay? And cities, in a sense, are not a terribly difficult example. There are other examples that we've seen before, which can be even more difficult. Okay? So, what I think is very important is if we manage to have some kind of hub of profiles for entities, which can be used as a way to map the names of entities in different languages, so that if we have information about New York on a website in Palestine, another in the United States, another in France, another in Italy, another I don't know where, okay? All this information and content will be associated to the same entity without additional problems, without doing difficult things like runtime, matching of entities, and similar things. So this is one thing that we can do, and yeah, this is to, okay, this is, sorry, there's another part, which is, somebody could say, well, wait a minute, no problem, because in the semantic web, we have URIs, identifiers for things, so no problem. We don't have problem of New York, Nueva York, and Nueva York, no problem. We have HTTP URIs, and we're done. Unfortunately, it's not like that, because if you search on any semantic web search engine for New York, you will see that there are many URIs for New York, because everyone creating a new data set, naming New York, normally will generate a new URI for New York, which is probably a way of making things worse, because now we have the ambiguity in the natural language name, New York, plus the ambiguity on the URIs, because we have completely different URIs. URIs are the web identifiers, uniform resource identifiers, okay, for the same thing. And this is a big problem, which also touches another problem, which I think is relevant for this project. Lots of URIs encode in the URI the name of the entity, which I think is a big mistake. Because if you say, okay, the URI is an identifier, but at the end of the day, the final part of the identifier is a name in natural language, that's exactly the reason why people say, well, if you have a URI in English, I want a URI in Italian, sorry, because why should I use New York if I want to call it Nueva York, okay? So, you know that there is one of the principles of the technical architecture of the web, is that in theory, URI should be, what's it in English? Meaningless, okay? You should not write any semantics from the URI. I think that's something we should take care of. It's not only for entities, but also for concepts. That's an interesting problem, because if we really believe that concepts are language dependent, then we need maybe to put the name of the concept in the URI. But if we have some idea that there is a concept which is expressed in different languages, that's another story. It's just an open issue. I'm not saying that I have a solution, but it's something that should be taken into account. Okay. Good. The main object that we are thinking of bringing to this consortium for collaboration is something that we call the entity name system. This is a service I named several times in my presentation, which we have developed in the OCAM project, which is an open platform, is run as a not-for-profit organization. It's called the OCAM Trust, so it's available for research. It's not a commercial platform. Okay? And the entity name system is basically a service, okay, with some interfaces, APIs, which allows anybody to create identifiers for entities and making them available to any application, okay, that needs that identifier for annotating data. Okay? And the interesting thing about DNS is that the idea is not that it would become the authority for names, because nobody would accept them. But what we have is just a central service saying, look, if you already know another identifier for the same entity, okay, just put it as part of the profile of the entity, is the last section, the alternative ID in the slide, and we guarantee that we will make this information available for anybody else. So if somebody is coming to the service and say, look, I want information about New York. I know this identifier for New York. Do you know any other identifier for the same entity? Okay. Through the entity name system, we can return either the identifier of the ENS, it's called OCAM identifiers, or the list of identifiers that we know for the same entity. In this sense, the name of the entity becomes again a gateway to information which is on the web, in this case, okay? On the internet. Here is, I don't want to go into technical details. Now, the key idea that I think it will be very important in the project is, if we find a description of an entity in any type of content, say a report on some kind of Arabic news website, okay? We have a problem of matching. We have a problem of finding the identifier for that entity if it is available in the system, and if it is not available, we need to create a new one. Okay, and okay, I skip this part. It's not important. Okay, and I think the key concept here is this idea of computing sameness, which is the goal is, if I have a description of an entity in any language, I want to make sure that if I already know an identifier for that entity, I'm able to find it and to give it to you. And this is the idea that we really want to enable this service to work smoothly with Arabic names for entities or Arabic description of entities in such a way that there will be no difference if you search for an entity in English or in Arabic or in Italian or ideally in any language. Okay? And this is something that we have not done in the OCAM project, except for locations, because for locations we're very easy to find dictionaries of names for the same city, the same location in different languages, but it's not true for the other kind of entities. Okay, I just have three things to conclude. Issues which I think are interesting. Number one, this is related to the discussion we had this morning, and which I think this is a philosophical question. Are individuals the same across languages and cultures? Because we said this morning, no. It's possible that people speaking Arabic languages and people speaking English have different concepts. It's a possibility. It's not just a matter of, it's not a lexical problem, okay? It's simply the way people conceptualize reality is slightly different. And I tend to agree with this point of view in a sense. I come from, my initial research in my PhD was a notion of context. And I think that context is really very important. But the question is it true the same for entities? Can we say that there is no way to name an entity in a way which is independent from culture? This is a first question, because if this is not possible, we are a bit in trouble. My hypothesis is a working assumption, is that there is a difference between concepts and entities, because entities, in a sense, are well, there is a level which is independent for the description you give of the entity. Okay? But this is a philosophical assumption that can be discussed. Second issue, I already said, so I don't need to discuss it. How do we recognize entities in text from different languages? This is big deal, and I think we will work a lot on this. Third issue, matching entities. Because one thing is recognizing that a string is an entity. Another thing is to recognize that the Ahmed that we have found there, and we know is a person, is exactly the Ahmed that is named also in another document, co-reference. That's the problem. And that's it. Yeah, I think this is a huge opportunity, by the way, because this is something that if we do it, if we get it right, it's something that will also have a big impact in general on the web and on the linguistic community. Huh?
I totally agree.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Paolo. So let's open the floor for questions. Matthew?
Hi, I have a couple of questions. The first is there any guidelines or something similar to manage granularity in the Occam approach to identity? I mean, that's, okay, I take an example for temporal record linkage, but it might be, like for example, Halon Alevi changed the name during his career. So, well, temporal, it's a very extreme way to put it, but so it's the same person who really changed during time. Is there a kind of an approach to manage this granularity, or like for example, for special entities, sometimes, of course, you cannot just recognize the boundaries of a spatial entity. So one can name New York just meaning the very city of New York. Someone else can name for New York like a broader area.
Okay, there are several levels, several questions here.
Yeah.
And they are all difficult questions. But I will start from the first one, which is typically related with time.
We need to actually...
Go.
No. I mean, we'll take other two questions, but we have to go fast.
Okay, yeah.
Because we have, you know, a conference later with people in the US and with Egypt, so we have to be really on time. Because
You are the boss. I can even stop here.
No. I also have questions for you, but so...
That's what we okay.
Just move fast.
Okay, question is, for the first thing, the guiding principle is coming from a theory from cognitive science. If you can find a plausible explanation of how the transition has happened, okay, then you keep the idea that it's the same entity. Changing a name is a typical thing that is not. For example, it would be very difficult to explain a transition for an entity. Okay, today is a person, tomorrow is described as an event. Okay, this is a difficult transition to explain. So probably
a political party, then you know the company, like for example.
Oh yeah, we have plenty. Okay, good.
So
And the other thing, granularity, that's another. There, I would definitely rely more on common sense. Nobody would never be able to define the square millimeters of the city of New York. Still, we speak about New York every day. There is a difference between New York, the piece of land, New York, the administration, New York, the football team. This is another level, and this is easy. But for example, things like the fuzzy definition, that's common sense. Everybody says, I like New York, and we know what you mean. It's very naive, I know.
Other questions, please? Ahmad?
Okay, actually my question about technical infrastructure reading for the success of this ticket system and the mapping between URIs and these tickets.
About the mapping about
The mapping for URIs and the tickets. I have my website built on
Okay, then probably the best answer to this thing, because I know he's already in a hurry. If you have 5 minutes, I can show it to you how it works, and it's easy. But the point is, the idea is simply to decouple, okay, the URIs, which points to the information about the object and the actual information. And we do it through a platform, which is separated, which allows you to define at any time, to change dynamically the links you show by keeping the same URI in the QR code, okay? That's what we do. But I can show it to you because it's online, it works. By the way, you can use it tomorrow if you want, because even if this is part of our commercial activity, the usage of the platform is completely free. Our goal is to spread the use of this QR codes everywhere, so everybody's invited if you want. I can give you the URL to play with creating QR codes just for fun, because the idea is to have millions of them around.
So there is no other questions, it seems, but I have a quick question because once I announced to our students project proposal here, I mean, last year students, it's called Ramallah Semantics, which means we wanted to build like profile for each entity in Ramallah, coffee shops, restaurants, museums, whatever, and then people actually not only just to scan this code, but also searching by image. I mean, my question is just to linking entities by their images, because you know there is also search by image nowadays.
Yeah, Google.
I mean, you take a photo of a building, and Google recognize, is this real building? I will give you an article to read about this. And so, well, no, it's a compliment here. So can you please make a comment?
Yeah, no, well, two things. The kind of catalog of things, of entities in Ramallah is very similar to what we are trying to do in Trento, because the tax project I described is just the first one. Because when you have a good coverage of the entities that are more or less relevant for our region, then you can imagine many services, not just the tax inspection, which is something we keep secret, because otherwise we need to change country if people discover that we are doing this, because they're not going to like it, okay? I'm joking, but not. So this is part. The other thing is, once you have the unique identifier for the entities, say every building in Ramallah, okay, the interesting thing is connecting this identifier with all the services you can think of. One is the application with the camera. The other could be, for the bar, could be the website, could be a special offer, could be the Facebook page of the bar that they have created, all together. And the good thing is that if you do this on a large scale, you can discover interesting connections that happen in the platform. So that, for example, people could say, well, but if there's a QR code on this bus stop and then my bar is around the corner, I might try to add, for example, my advertisement on the bus stop, inviting people to go around the corner while they wait for the bus. And so also creating an advertisement platform.
Do you work with cultural heritage projects with identities?
Oh yeah, for example, we're doing something with the Tate Gallery in London, okay, for connecting all the paintings and everything they have there with this kind of information coming from different sources. Some of them are public sources like Wikipedia or whatever, the usual stuff. Other sources are from their own information system. So the idea is super general. And the idea that you can combine the identification with the geolocation of the user is extremely powerful. It can be used in many circumstances, really.
Well, this is actually very interesting topic, especially it's really a hot area in the whole computer science community nowadays. It's called Think Tech. Top conferences are all talking about this. So we can continue during the break. So thank you very much again, Paolo. And we have